This is one of the best crop sensor camera and lens combination, Sony FX30 and the Sigma 17-40 f1.8 lens. And I've been extensively testing this combo over the last 3 months in real-world conditions, and to be honest guys, I've got mixed feelings, so let's talk about it. What's good guys, my name is Oleg Nikitin and you're watching No Limits On channel. So I've been using this lens on real-world projects, commercials, 1 real wedding and 2 wedding workshops in Italy. And all the shots from the workshops are shot entirely with the FX30 in combination with the Sigma 17-40 f1.8. Let's start off with the advantages of this lens. I shot almost entirely wide open at f1.8 and this lens is really sharp wide open, both at 17mm and at 40mm. I had no issues with sharpness whatsoever. And since it's an f1.8 lens, you get decent subject separation and background blur, and the bokeh, let me say. At 17mm it's not crazy, but at 40mm you can get really out of focus backgrounds and the quality of the bokeh is also really nice. And for a fast lens with versatile focal length, the size and weight of this lens is really manageable. It's not super heavy, and I was using this lens with the FX30 and my gimbal Zhiyun Cinepeer Weebill 3E throughout the entire day and had no issues, my back was still okay. And one more huge advantage for gimbal work is that this lens does not extend as you zoom in, so basically once you balance your gimbal and you can work with this combo all day. And now guys, let's talk about the drawbacks, and there are some serious ones. And the first one and the biggest one to me is the loss of contrast in backlighting. The thing is that we had 2 workshops and both ceremonies were in the backlighting conditions, pretty harsh sunlight as you can tell from the shots, and this lens loses a lot of contrast in the backlighting. Partially, probably, the problem was in this filter. This is the Haida 3-7 stops Pro filter. Probably I could have used like a lock-in VND for Freewell and get slightly better results, I'm not really sure, but this filter didn't do a great job. So with this lens, I would highly recommend using the lens hood itself and maybe like a fixed ND of a small size, so you can use the lens hood as well. But I was really disappointed with the results. We have a huge loss of contrast, huge flares as well, and it is unpredictable, and as you can tell from the footage, I was not able to restore the contrast on those flary scenes. And let me say, this was my biggest disappointment with this lens. The autofocus performance is not always reliable as well. Probably it's partially because of the older autofocus system of the Sony FX30, but still it's like a super reliable system for like 99% of the scenarios, but still let me show you the results. As you can tell right here, we have a backlit situation and my camera wasn't able to focus properly with this lens because we had a pretty bright background, and I think it's messing up the camera's mind and it's trying to focus on the background. In this scene with the cake, the same thing, and I didn't see it when I was shooting. Here I thought that I would catch the face, but it was focusing on the foreground, and in this scene I was actually tapped to focus to track the bright, but if we zoom in, we can definitely see that the autofocus did catch the background and not the bright. So this is a little disappointing to me as well. It's not a secret that the IBIS or in-body image stabilization with third-party lenses is working actually worse than with the native Sony lenses. And no matter that I was using a 3-axis gimbal, I always like to turn on the active stabilization or active IBIS mode and basically get a 10% crop. And since this lens is a 25.5mm in full frame equivalent to 60mm, it becomes more of a 28mm with the steady shot active, and it's really limiting, especially on the gimbal. And since I always make Reels video from our workshops and I cut the portions from the middle, from the horizontal frame into a vertical frame, I had not that much space. And if I turn off the active stabilization and only use the standard stabilization with the Sony FX30 and a third-party lens, the quality isn't great. Even though I was using the 3-axis gimbal, I still had to stabilize the footage in post a lot, and it's a pain in the butt, as you might imagine. So for this reason, it's also a little drawback for this lens. And the next one is not that big because the zoom ring is the opposite direction. So if I want to zoom in, I'm actually zooming out, and vice versa. As you know, Sony lenses have the other direction, and it's a little irritating, but nothing too crazy. And guys, to be honest, I was really spoiled by my Sony ZV-E1 camera, which has the same sensor as the A7S III, FX3, FX6, and with my Sony 20-70 f4 lens for workshops, weddings, reportage style shoots, etc. Because the 20-70 is so much more versatile, considering that we have steady shot standard and it's working as good as here with the steady shot active, and we have the 20 versus 28mm in full frame equivalent basically, and it's a huge difference. Just look at this example guys. 20mm is so much wider, and also 70mm full frame equivalent versus 60mm full frame equivalent might not sound like a big difference, but the ZV-1 retains the eye autofocus in clear image zoom mode, so I can get like 105mm full frame equivalent with the clear image zoom with autofocus, and the image quality will be slightly worse, but you won't notice it in like dynamic editing style. And in here, if you have the clear image zoom, the autofocus is only contrast based, so you cannot actually rely on it. And basically I'm stuck to 28mm if I use steady shot active, to about 65-70mm in full frame equivalent with the Sigma 17-40 lens, which is actually pretty limiting, guys. And the ZV-1 really got me spoiled once again with the image quality, because it's so much better in terms of the noise levels. Because on here, even in a sunny day at ISO 800 in S-Log 3, basically the native ISO, I still get grain, I still get some noise, and I can actually see it even on a smaller screens like my 16-inch laptop. But if I look at it at a 27-inch display like this one, it's actually grainy. No matter that I did expose it correctly, I overexposed the footage slightly, then I color corrected it in post in a good fashion. I did lower the exposure in post, thus getting cleaner shadows, but all in all, the ZV-1 has much better image quality, and maybe because of that reason, I got mixed feelings about this camera and lens combination on the same kind of event like the workshop. But you would say this is an f1.8 lens versus an f4 lens on the ZV-1. And yes, guys, you'll be right, the light transmission is actually f1.8, but in terms of the bokeh amount, yeah, the background separation, if you use the f1.8 lens on an aps-c body, you multiply it by 1.5 and you get about f2.7, f2.8 background blur and separation with the equivalent focal length. So basically you get like a difference between f4 and f2.8 on a full frame, and this difference is not that huge, guys. Yes, I can see slightly more bokeh with this camera and lens combination, but it's not like a crazy difference. It's not like f4 versus f1.8 on full frame camera. So here are two videos side by side. One is shot with the Sony ZV-E1 full frame camera with a 20-70 f4 lens, and another is shot with the FX30 and the 17-40 f1.8 lens. Both lenses wide open, and do you see a huge difference in bokeh and image quality? To be honest, I really don't. Maybe in some shots the f1.8 lens looks slightly better on the crop sensor camera, but in most scenarios for weddings and reportage style shoots, I wouldn't say that it's a game changer. And by the way, guys, if you do like the idea of coming to our workshop, here is the link, Peony Wedding Workshops in Instagram. You're always welcome, and I'm always on those workshops, so if you want to meet me in person, come join. Don't get me wrong, guys, it's still a super nice lens, one of a kind for aps-c cameras with those focal length and this fast of an aperture. It's an engineering masterpiece, and you can definitely shoot an entire wedding or an event or even a feature film with this lens, no problem. But to be honest, I was so much more excited about this lens before I actually tested it extensively in the field. And considering a pretty high price tag, I would think twice whether I need this lens or not. And maybe you can get away with using a slower lens like a Sigma 18-50 f2.8 plus getting a different lens for better low light performance and more bokeh, something like a Viltrox 27mm f1.2 for instance. So what are your thoughts, guys? Is this lens the only one and you should only get this one, or you have some options? And if you want to learn more about 6 different zoom lenses for aps-c cameras, right here I have a full in-depth comparison of 6 different lenses, including this one. So if you did enjoy this video, please smash the like and subscribe buttons and hit the notifications bell, and I'm gonna see you in this video, guys. Take care, bye.